come to Stoke on a landmark year for the village of Stoke and its 850 inhabitants. The village came under the scrutiny of a photographer and a journalist who spent the entire year documenting its life and times. And the results provide a fascinating insight into contemporary village life.
I wanted to do a set of photographs about an ordinary English village, and in particular I wanted to do a village where it was a commuter village near to Bristol. And this to me was, in a sense, the sort of modern village as opposed to the more old-fashioned view of what a village was like. And many villages, not just Stoke but around the country, are very much dependent on people commuting into the bigger cities. Inevitably, the people who move in have to have a good salary. To buy a house in Stoke, you're looking at 150,000 upwards. So, you've got to be a middle-class person with a very good job in Bristol or wherever in order to move in the first place. There are definitely two communities, but the funny thing is, and one thing that's quite ironic, is that the traditional village events are more organised now by the sort of middle-class incomers. So in a sense, they're the people who are very much more interested in keeping the village identity going.
What I like about village life is you can actually just walk down the street and it's actually just to be known. People say hello, they stop and talk to you because you know them, they know you. That's perhaps not quite the same in a large city. I mean, even going to the shop for your newspaper can be quite an experience. It can often come back and say, my word, my wife says, my word, that was a long 200 yards. It took me about 20 minutes.
I enjoyed the stimulation of going to London, albeit meaning a very long day, being up at 4:30 and getting back at somewhere around 7:30 at night. But nevertheless, it was very stimulating to work in London. I enjoyed it immensely. But equally I enjoy coming home to Stoke in the evenings and to spend my weekends here. It's a very pleasant village. It's situated in an area of outstanding natural beauty, which I think makes Stoke perhaps more popular than a lot of other villages. We've always made a good effort to enter into village life. They tend to welcome us on the whole, but there are certain situations where I think they're a little suspicious of the fact that you're here and why you're here. I think they tend to think that you've come in with more money than can be earned by local people in the village, and thereby pushing up the price of property. And I think there is a tendency to blame the outsiders for this.
The thing that I miss most in the village are the characters that used to be around. For example, Mrs. Luton, who ran the post office here. It was always said that if a telegram arrived in the village, maybe most of the village knew the contents before the recipient.
That's how it is, isn't it?
But the shop itself was the thing I remember mostly about it is the smell of the shop. It was a sort of dark, dusky sort of smell with wooden cabinets for raisins and currants and sultanas, and a lot of the people who have come in the last 20 years do one heck of a lot of work to help keep the village going in the various functions in the village. So, no, I don't think there's a them and us attitude. There's just one or two, I think, that believe that they want to model or mould the village into their way of thinking. I mean, just as an interesting point, there is, quite handy here, a new development. And we had a letter the other day in the parish council because there's a big, about a 60-foot high lime tree in the back garden of one of the houses. Now these houses went for about £250,000, and they want now. They realise they haven't got enough back garden, I think, so they asked that could they buy 40 feet of the parish land. And the reason given was that they were concerned about the damage to the lime tree caused by dogs urinating against the trunk. Now, have you heard anything as ridiculous as that?
All the local people have had to move away because it's too dear, and they don't build nothing for young people. I'm 30 now, and I lived in the village here for 25 years. I was forced to move away because property's too expensive, and because I got married, and now I live at Stockwood. I used to go off to discos and that, and go out to the pub, meet out with a lot of friends. I don't sort of see them no more now. But it's a pity we had to move away from the village, really. The only problem is the property's too expensive here, and they only look out for the richer people, really, I think, instead of the young villagers.
It's vitally important for a village to have a school because it fulfills many functions. It's not only a place where children are educated, but it ensures the continuing growth and development of the village because young families are able to go and live in a village if it has a school.
I think it's essential. I think that once a village school closes, it means that a lot of the life goes out of the village, and together with the shop and perhaps the local pub, it is really the centre of village life. And certainly a lot of the activities which are carried on by the PTA and by the school itself provide a focus for people in the village getting together.
I suppose it took a good 4 years, really, to be accepted as a villager. You know, it was very sort of close-knit, you know, and they had a thing about townies, what they called townies. Of course, my husband came from Bedminster, so it was a little bit, you know, there was a little bit of friction.
If you take the older community, they're upset because we call it the newer community, if you want, taking over the Arabistone and that type of thing. Whose fault is it? Like the older people, although they complain, they don't do anything about it.
What are the actual differences between the two communities, if you like?
In one word?
Yeah, if you like.
Money.
I look upon my role, obviously, as the rector and involving the church life of the village, but I like to involve myself in other activities as well. I mean, for example, I'm chairman of the Harvest Home Committee, and I serve on other committees in the village which don't have anything specifically to do with church life. Some of the activities of the village will perhaps consist mainly of people from the older community. You have the cricket club, which I suppose a lot of the cricket club come from perhaps the older village families. You have the Women's Institute, which is a mixture of both. You have the Dramatic Society, which is probably mainly the newer comers, but there are people from the older community involved in it. Church, which is very much a mixture of both sides of the community. I think for people who live in the city, perhaps they'd find it a bit dull. They wouldn't have the shops and they wouldn't have the entertainment perhaps they would have in the city, but that's choice, and personally I'd choose a village every time.
For the Times, the sea